Hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and the first webinar of your orientation, Countdown to VISTA Service. Your upcoming AmeriCorps service is a year-long commitment, and this period before you start is meant to provide you with an opportunity to learn about VISTA and your benefits, as well as to ensure that this is the right choice for you. I know this is a stressful time in our country with our schedules and daily lives disrupted by the spread of coronavirus and so many of the things that are going on right now. And you likely have a lot of questions about starting your upcoming service. So this webinar is designed to give you a great foundation to begin service as an AmeriCorps member in general. And we're going to address a couple of specific details that may apply to your situation at this time. And let me also say that AmeriCorps is closely monitoring the unfolding developments related to coronavirus, and we have a set of frequently asked questions that are posted online, nationalservice.gov/coronavirus, and we continually update those. So that's one-stop shop to go to see the latest news there. But for now, please know that we are really grateful for your service, and we want to help orient you to AmeriCorps VISTA as well as we can on this webinar. So let's get started. My name is Andy King, and I am joined by Eric Powell. We will be your hosts today from AmeriCorps VISTA. You will also see our AmeriCorps colleagues, Chris Hawks and Gina Viner, as well as our partners at LSI, Mike Dietz and Jeff Banis, to support you in the chat and the Q&A. We loved seeing your comments in the chat before we got started, and we know that this is an exciting time as you're gearing up to start your AmeriCorps year. And I'm looking forward to working with you today.
And this is Eric Powell, and I also want to add my sincere welcome and excitement for you, and thank you so much for choosing to join the AmeriCorps VISTA program. I'm extremely happy to meet you today and learn all about the ideas you have in responses to our chat activities. And I echo Andy's sentiment in that I really hope that this year will be a wonderful and an influential experience for you, and I look forward to helping you get started. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll start out with brief introductions and an overview of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Then we'll jump into some of the important details of your orientation, including major tasks that you need to complete when you start service next week. We'll take a closer look at some of the benefits that members receive and address questions on those specific benefits. We'll then wrap up today with a quick reminder of useful resources for you, and we'll ask for your feedback on today's presentation. And here's an overview of what we would like to accomplish today. First and foremost, we have asked you to log on today to give our AmeriCorps staff a chance to connect with you and to help ease you into your year of service. We also know that this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new AmeriCorps members, as many of you have already started doing, and start building connections with colleagues across the country. We'll also take time today to reinforce some of the very important details of your AmeriCorps service. We know that there's a lot of information coming at you from the AmeriCorps office and possibly from your project site. So we'll highlight several critical pieces of information today. And finally, we really want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where you can find more answers to the questions that you might have. We know we have limited time online today, and as Andy said earlier, we may not be able to answer all of your questions, though we'll work really hard to do that in the question and answer session later on in the presentation. Andy, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. So it's really my pleasure to be part of this official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. Today, you are about to join a national service program that has a really rich history. There are about 240 AmeriCorps members who are beginning service with you this month, and currently, just under 5,000 VISTA members are serving in rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several U.S. territories and tribal nations. Volunteers in service to America or VISTA, has been fighting poverty and building communities for more than 50 years. Our strength comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of our members, like you. So let me thank you for stepping up to share your skills and passion to serve our communities. It truly is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. All right, here's your first opportunity to interact with each other. So in the chat, please take a moment to type your answer to this question. In what city or town will you serve? And remember, please select all panelists and attendees so that everyone will see where you all are serving. We have a lot of participants on the webinar today, from close to 200, I believe. So we know the chat's going to move really quickly. But I see people from all over right here in Washington, D.C., as well as Washington State on the other side of the country. We've got people from Montana to Texas, from Maine to Florida, West Palm Beach, Newport, Rhode Island, San Juan, Puerto Rico. All right, so we really have a lot of the corners of the country here. I see Philadelphia and Marietta, Georgia, South Carolina, Minnesota. Man, you guys type fast. I cannot keep up. But needless to say, oh, and there's Kona, Hawaii. So we have, I think, 7 different time zones represented here. For some of you, it's already 4 p.m. and others, it's like 9 in the morning. So it's really, really great to see that you're serving literally all over the country. This is really phenomenal. And we know, based on your AmeriCorps applications that you submitted and the placements that we've seen for your actual AmeriCorps service, that we have VISTAs who are starting out in so many different communities, as well as serving with different types of AmeriCorps projects. Okay, so now let's get a sense of how many of you have relocated or you will relocate for your AmeriCorps service. In just a second, a poll is going to open up. 2 options there, yes or no. I am or will be relocating to serve. So go ahead, enter your thing there and click the submit button so it'll show up on our end. And if you're on a mobile device, the chat is not available there, so you'll have to use the chat. Because there's not a poll. All right, so Eric, you want to make a guess around the percentage of people who say they're going to relocate?
Sure, something tells me it'll be over half, so I'm just going to wildly say 59.3% will say they relocate.
Okay, well, I've been looking in the chat, and I don't know if this is representative. It looks like, I'm going to say it's less than half, maybe like 30% or so. Okay, so Mike, I think we've had enough time for the poll. Can we get the results? 33% are relocating and 67 are serving right where they are. So there you go. All right. So thank you for participating in that little poll, sending you all very good wishes for a safe and easy move for those of you who are relocating. Now, all of you together, you're joining thousands of AmeriCorps VISTA colleagues around the country to fight poverty. And we all do this by providing critical resources to local service organizations or government agencies. And the VISTA program mission, as you can see here, is to strengthen organizations that fight poverty. And we do that by deploying members to serve in local community agencies. The role of the AmeriCorps VISTA member is to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance efficiency and build capacity. And they do this by raising money, developing systems, recruiting volunteers, or anything else that's going to create lasting change. So by serving at a sponsoring organization, you are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening communities. And speaking of your organization, we have a quick chat activity for you here. What is your project supervisor's name? So again, type that into the chat and submit it. And if you don't know the name of your supervisor, that's okay. This is a good reminder that come Monday, you're going to need to know where to show up and who to report to, whether you're showing up in person or virtually. And typically, your supervisor is the person that you interviewed with for your AmeriCorps position, or it's the point of contact that you've been communicating with at the organization. All right, I see most of you do know the name and they're flooding in here. I'm not going to read them out because that doesn't help us, but thank you all for participating in that. And I'll say that, at this early stage of your service year, there may still be a lot of new information that you're going to want to gather, including details about your site and your site supervisor. All right. So let's take a look at the overall VISTA program structure. So here's a graphic that represents the AmeriCorps VISTA program model, and it shows key partners that make your AmeriCorps service possible. So in the image, you can see the AmeriCorps VISTA program involves a lot of different layers that help support the work that our VISTA projects are doing, as well as supporting you and other VISTA members. So our AmeriCorps headquarters, as you see there on the left, is located in Washington, D.C. And AmeriCorps also has regional offices across the country. In those offices, AmeriCorps staff collect proposals from local agencies who want to engage VISTA members, and they review and approve those project applications. And then later they approve the placement of members like you into those projects. Your regional office is a key resource for you, and they can help you with any questions about your assignment or your project that your supervisor isn't able to answer. And you can reach them by email using the two-letter state abbreviation and then at cms.gov. So for, say, you're serving in the state of Texas, you would email tx@cms.gov. Okay, also in the image, you can see your sponsoring organization listed along with your specific supervisor. Your sponsor and supervisor will be your day-to-day support and provide the details on your project work. Now, at our AmeriCorps headquarters, you will be supported by the VISTA Training Unit and the VISTA Member Support Unit, what we call the VMSU, among other departments. The VMSU, that's the support unit, is a helpful resource for questions regarding your benefits. And to help make sense of all these organizations, there's an AmeriCorps VISTA Resources and Context document. You can find that on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus where you did your pre-service coursework. And there's the link, thank you, Jeff, just pasted in the chat right now. For your specific AmeriCorps VISTA service, you are making a 1-year, 365-day full-time commitment to strengthen and support your community. You will strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs. You will work on projects, probably with staff and volunteers, to build capacity in your project and community. Central to your VISTA service is an important document called your VISTA Assignment Description, VAD or VAD. The VISTA Assignment Description provides the overarching goals of your project. It explains the objectives you're working towards during your year, and it lays out the specific activities that you will complete to accomplish the objectives. All AmeriCorps VISTA members have a VISTA Assignment Description, and you can find it in the My AmeriCorps portal at my.americorps.gov. It's important to know that your VAD was likely written before you were recruited or selected for your project. So you'll want to check in with your supervisor next week and talk about whether anything new has developed and what the current needs are of your VISTA project. Because your VAD was written a bit in advance, it's pretty common that VISTA members and supervisors will update them at the start of the service year. So this can especially be true now because coronavirus has caused a lot of organizations to redirect efforts to emphasize specific areas of focus. And when we meet again on next Monday's webinar, we'll go a little more into detail about capacity building and the unique nature of your VISTA service. So you want to make sure that you have your VAD by then, by your first day of service.
So let's move on now to the next item on our agenda and talk about the phases of your orientation to the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Today's webinar is just one part of a multifaceted orientation that all new AmeriCorps VISTA members complete. On the far left of this graphic, you can see the phases of your orientation and some of the major tasks in the blocks to the right of each phase. This structure is also reflected in the VISTA member orientation checklist that you received via email. You can also find a link to the checklist in the chat panel now. And although you may start off by teleserving or serving from home, your supervisor will still be providing you with an on-site orientation and training to really guide you as you start your year of service. So I encourage you to print or save this checklist right away and keep it close at hand because you can use it as a record of your progress through each phase of orientation and as you complete tasks during this week and beyond. The phases of your AmeriCorps VISTA orientation include pre-service, which is where you are now, your first day of your term of service, and in service. It's really good to know that orientation to your AmeriCorps service is an ongoing process and it involves a number of people. We know that your position will be a complex one, and it takes a bit of time and effort to get you started strong. So let's talk through some of the really important elements of the first two phases of your orientation. As part of your VISTA member orientation, you are required to complete several courses and tutorials online. You may have already started or completed these, but we do just want to take a second to highlight the courses and their importance. These online courses are located on the Starting VISTA Service page of vistacampus.gov and must also be completed before you begin service. And please note, the Terms and Conditions course is linked to your my.americorps.gov account, so you can certify your acceptance there. And remember that you must accept the Terms and Conditions of Service in order to start service as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. We know that there's a lot to do before Monday, and again, you can keep track of all of your progress on the coursework and the required forms using the VISTA member orientation checklist. In addition to the coursework on the VISTA campus, you will need to complete your onboarding forms, and these include a direct deposit form for your living allowance, federal tax withholding, what's also known as a W-4 form, your unpaid compensation information, and your end of service benefit selection. All of these forms are located in my.americorps.gov, and if you have not yet completed these, please plan on doing it right away because we need these forms to officially enroll you in AmeriCorps and process your living allowance and other service benefits. And speaking of benefits, there are a number of benefits available to members, and if you haven't done so already, please make sure you take the time to go through all of the information available on the VISTA campus. In just a few minutes, we'll also talk through some of your benefits and highlight important details for you to know. And segueing into details, here's one really big to-do item on your orientation checklist. You will be required to undergo a background investigation prior to starting service, which includes securely submitting information online to complete a background check at no cost to you. You will receive an email from support@checkr.com with instructions on how to securely submit the required information for the background check. Once you receive the email, you must complete the online background check information immediately upon you must complete the background check information immediately upon receiving it. Please ensure that your email address in My AmeriCorps is correct. And you are required to submit the online background check within 7 days of receiving the email. Failure to complete the background check requirements on time could result in a delay in your service start date, and we really don't want that to happen, and I'm sure that you don't want that to happen either. So please adhere to the deadlines. And if you do have any questions about this process, please email vistafingerprint@cns.gov. This email address is also listed on the Resources and Contacts PDF that was shared. The other part of this process is comparing your background check results to what you may have disclosed on your AmeriCorps application. You might recall that when you applied, you were asked if you had ever been convicted of a crime. It's possible that you didn't disclose everything in your AmeriCorps application. Maybe you thought you didn't need to include everything, or maybe you thought minor traffic violations didn't need to be reported, or because you were involved in something as a minor and your record was expunged. There are any number of reasons why you may have omitted relevant information here. If you fail to disclose any conviction in your AmeriCorps application, now is the time to fix that problem. To do that, you will need to fill out the member disclosure form. And to do that, you can contact vistafingerprint@cns.gov to obtain a member disclosure form for completion. When your FBI background investigation is completed, we will compare the report to your disclosures in the application and on the member disclosure form. If everything aligns, you won't hear from us. A minor offense with no relation to your assignment will generally not bar you from VISTA service. And if there is a conviction that you have not disclosed to us, AmeriCorps will have extensive follow-up with you and your supervisor to get all of the details. Depending on the specific conviction, it is possible that you would be terminated from service. Again, we really don't want that to happen. So please be completely upfront in your criminal history questionnaire. We recommend erring on the side of caution so that we can work with you to fully assess the situation.
All right, so let's shift gears now and talk about your first day of service. Your first day of AmeriCorps service is next Monday, November 9th, 2020, and you'll start your first day at your project site if they're open, or if you're approved by your supervisor to teleserve, then you would connect from home. If you will be teleserving, please be sure to complete the teleservice agreement form. It's something that needs to be signed both by you and your supervisor. The form can be found on the VISTA campus, and it's there in the helpful links handout, so you can connect to it there, and you'll see the link is in the chat. If for any reason you're unable to start your service on Monday, make sure you connect with your supervisor right away. If you can't reach your supervisor, then reach out to your regional office. Remember the thing with the 2-letter abbreviation at cns.gov, and let us know. If you can't reach anybody there, you can always respond to the email messages I've sent and reply to me, Andy King. So whether you'll be showing up on site Monday or teleserving until it's safe for you to serve on site, we want to point out that as an AmeriCorps member, you'll be serving in a professional work environment, and you're going to want to set yourself up for success. So if you're teleserving on day one, you'll want to confirm a start time for Monday and see what the schedule is for your remote orientation and training. If you haven't done so already, you'll want to make sure that your workstation is set up prior to Monday morning, right? So you've got your screen and your internet and your phone, or however you're going to connect to the audio. And for those of you who will be able to serve on site, you're going to want to confirm those details with your supervisor. like the address where you need to report, what time you should show up, the dress code of the organization, maybe the parking situation if you're going to be driving, you know, or other things like what's the average commute time, or if there's anything you need to bring with you. You know, sometimes you'll have to bring some form of identification or other paperwork. So regardless of your situation, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions of your supervisor. They are there to help you with your onboarding process. So on your first day, you'll continue your orientation with your project site, as well as with us here at AmeriCorps headquarters. Your supervisor may have prepared a formal agenda for you and have set up scheduled meetings or other activities. Day one schedules can vary project by project. So again, check in with your supervisor about what to expect and what materials you're going to need on your first day. And along with beginning that on-site orientation on Monday, we at AmeriCorps headquarters will present your second orientation webinar. It's called Launching Your VISTA Service. We'll be back online with you the same time, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone, just like today. Similar to this webinar, you'll get an email from me with details to connect. And as a little bit of a preview, on that webinar, we'll go a little bit deeper into the AmeriCorps VISTA program, your VISTA assignment description, as well as some additional member resources. We'll also have time again for Q&A to make sure that you're in good shape for your first week of service. Also on that webinar, we will administer the oath of service. And it's that oath that officially makes you a VISTA member. And in order to submit your oath form, you're going to need to be able to access your account at my.americorps.gov. So just make sure you know what your username and password are come next Monday, and I'm sure you all will.
So next, we're going to take a closer look at a critical piece of the AmeriCorps VISTA program, the terms and conditions of your service. As you know, there's a course on the VISTA campus that you must complete before you can be enrolled as an AmeriCorps member. This course covers the rules of participation in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, what is allowable while you are serving as an AmeriCorps member. And since AmeriCorps VISTA is a program of the federal government, we are bound by a variety of public laws, federal regulations, and other rules. We want to make sure that you are aware of this from day one and that you feel comfortable in your AmeriCorps role. We hope that by now you have already completed the Terms and Conditions course, but we are going to review and highlight a few critical pieces of information from that course in the next few minutes. If you've already completed the course online, this should be an easy and a quick review for you. And hopefully this will help emphasize the content of the course if you have not yet completed it. So here's what we will do. We'll present several scenarios and ask you to indicate yes or no in the chat. And to make it easy, just type Y for yes or N for no for each scenario. So let's get started. Here's the first scenario. I can voice my political opinions using social media where my profile identifies me as an AmeriCorps member. So per the VISTA terms and conditions, do you think members are allowed to do this? Again, you can type Y for yes or N for no. See, a lot of people are responding, which is good. People are eager and trying to get this answer 100% correct. A lot of no's, quite a few yeses.
It's a real mix. Yeah,
it is.
It's such a mix here.
I can see how some people might think it's a confusing question, and give it just another couple of seconds to see if there's any other. I see someone put yes with a question mark. That's confidence and inquisitiveness. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. So let's go ahead and look at the answer. Thank you for your responses. The answer is yes, per the AmeriCorps VISTA terms and conditions. You can have AmeriCorps VISTA listed on your personal social media profile and voice your own personal political opinions as part of your online life. However, You cannot represent yourself as a spokesperson for AmeriCorps, for the VISTA program, or for your VISTA project sponsor. Additionally, you can voice political opinions on your own time, but not while serving at your site or while teleserving, nor while using any of the equipment at your site, including their Wi-Fi network or your office computer. Also, keep in mind that you should not put the AmeriCorps logo as your profile picture when voicing political or other sensitive opinions on social media. And of course, when in doubt, if there's ever any questions or concern, please keep your AmeriCorps service and political activity completely separate.
All right, ready for the next one? I can demonstrate in a political rally. So again, according to the terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? I see a lot of yeses. There are a couple of no's early on. Oh, there's another no, and there's, oh, there was a yes, but. Can't wear the logo on your shirt. Yes, with exceptions. I wouldn't join if I couldn't. All right, so you guys got it. The answer is yes, you can demonstrate in a political rally, but of course there are those typical caveats, right? You've got to do it on your own time, and you can do it as long as you are not identified as an AmeriCorps VISTA member or perceived to be an AmeriCorps member. And it's that perceived to be an AmeriCorps member that's an important consideration, right? Because some of you may be serving in a small town or a local area. And so even if you're not necessarily wearing your AmeriCorps gear, people still are going to know that you're an AmeriCorps member. So there's tricky. You may have to go to the next county over to demonstrate or whatever if people really know who you are. And when in doubt about a specific activity, it's best to hold off at first until you have time to consult with your supervisor or your AmeriCorps regional office to get clarification on that particular situation.
So here comes the next one, and let's see what you think about this one. The statement is, I can ask people to donate money to a partisan political candidate as long as it's on my own time and I'm not identified as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. See quite a few no's coming in, a lot of responses coming in. Thank you for those who are participating. It's nice to see an active group. Now there's a mix, no's, yes, no, yes. Some people spelling it out fully. Looks like there's some uncertainty on this one, Andy, but a lot more yeses coming in.
Yeah, a real mix here. I wonder what the right answer is going to turn out to be, because that means some people were correct and others have another lesson to learn. So
Very well articulated. Well, speaking of the answer, let's see what the answer is. So the correct answer to this one is no. You cannot raise money on behalf of a partisan political candidate at any time during your AmeriCorps year. It doesn't even matter if it's off-duty or at home or while not identified as an AmeriCorps member. There's a federal law called the Hatch Act, and it prohibits all fundraising for partisan political candidates. And of course, being a federal program, you're a national service participant under a federal program. You can, however, raise funds in support of an issue on your own time and when you are not identified as an AmeriCorps member.
all right, so here's our last scenario. I can have outside employment and or earn additional income while serving as an AmeriCorps member. And fast and furious, they're coming in almost unanimously yes. Yes, if approved. Yes, if you tell your supervisor, as long as it doesn't interfere, as it gets okay. All right, you guys got it. You are awesome. Here is the answer to that. As you all indicated, yes, you may have outside part-time employment while you're serving in AmeriCorps. There are a few key things that you need to keep in mind. First off, that outside employment must not conflict with your project service or your service hours. and it cannot conflict with any applicable law or AmeriCorps VISTA program requirements or policies, right? So it's got to be legal, and it can't get in the way of your VISTA service. Under no circumstances may an AmeriCorps VISTA member be an employee of or a contractor for the sponsor or project where they are assigned to serve. And your supervisor must approve and agree that your outside work is not going to interfere with your service. If the work does interfere, then you may be asked to either end your employment or end your AmeriCorps service. Only part-time outside employment is allowed, and you have to request and get approval for your outside employment from your supervisor. There is a request form. You can find it on the VISTA campus, and there is the link. Thank you, Jeff, in the chat. You can find more information about the outside employment policy, and you see the link there at the bottom of the slide. All right, so thank you for going through those scenarios. Hopefully that was a little bit of fun for you. And while the terms and conditions of your AmeriCorps service contain many rules, we know that these 4 issues in particular tend to raise a lot of questions for new members. So that's why we went through those. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable getting started in your service, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to your project supervisor or your regional office if you run into more questions about these kinds of rules. If you haven't already, you'll need to complete that terms and conditions tutorial on the VISTA campus, and then indicate in your account in My AmeriCorps that you've completed and you accept the terms. The deadline for that is tomorrow.
As we look at our agenda, you can tell we've accomplished a lot. And now we're going to take a closer look at some of the benefits that you will have as an AmeriCorps member. We want to draw your attention again to a few key items today, as Andy mentioned, because they are time sensitive and you'll be able to find a lot more details about all member benefits on the VISTA campus website. This specific page of the VISTA campus contains an overview of all your benefits. Some benefits, such as the living allowance, are available to all AmeriCorps VISTA members. There are other benefits that may only apply to some members, such as childcare assistance. Please make sure that you review all of this carefully because it does contain a lot of the details and answers to many of your questions. But right now, we will walk through some of the benefits that seem to generate the most questions from VISTA members. So let's start by talking about your living allowance. From the benefits page on the VISTA campus, you can find a good deal of detail about the living allowance benefit. There's additional links at the bottom of this page under the resources section, and that includes tips for how to make the most of the living allowance. Here you will also find a living allowance calendar, which I know is very useful to many people, and it also gives you access to the living allowance rates. Keep in mind that the rates of pay do vary across the country, so please check out this link to confirm the rate for your area. These links are also included in the helpful links handout for today's session. So a quick question for you, activity for you to get involved again. Do you know when you will be getting your first payment? If so, go ahead and type your answer in the chat. Again, we're looking for when you think you'll be getting your first living allowance payment in your account. See, a bunch of people said November 27th. Some said 2 weeks. Not sure. Okay, a lot more November 27th, 2 weeks. 8 to 10 weeks after first day of service. No, sorry, that's not right. But I think I know what you're getting at. But we'll explain that in a minute. So I see a lot of different answers, but some of you are getting close. So I'll go ahead and not belabor the point, and I'll give you the answer. Your first living allowance payment is scheduled to be on November 27th, 2020. Members are paid every 2 weeks on Fridays, and while this information applies to most members, you may be paid directly by your AmeriCorps sponsor. So please, when you talk to your supervisor, ask your AmeriCorps supervisor if you are paid directly by them. This is an important detail so that you know the sponsor's payment schedule and their process. Federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. You are responsible for determining your own level of responsibility for state taxes. We suggest you check in with your state tax office or the comptroller for more details. If you are paid by AmeriCorps headquarters, you can access your living allowance statement in your my.americorps.gov account. If you are paid directly by your VISTA sponsor, you will receive your pay statements from them. And in order to ensure that you receive your living allowance, it's absolutely critical to complete the direct deposit information correctly. We cannot stress this enough. If either the routing number or the account number you entered for direct deposit is not correct, you will not receive your living allowance payment as scheduled, and please note you'll have to wait at least 2 additional weeks until the next pay period to be paid. As a reminder, you can find the routing number and the account number on your checks if you have them, or you can go to your online banking site and look at an account statement. You may also want to call your bank just to make sure that you have the correct information, because you'll want to double check that the numbers are accurate in your my.americorps.gov account.
All right, so now let's shift to look at the later part of your service year. So after you successfully complete your AmeriCorps service, you're eligible for one of 2 benefits, either the education award or the cash stipend. So first, the education award. This is an award that can be used to pay for any qualified federal student loans that you may have, or to pay for future education at a Title IV institution. That is, an institution that accepts federal funds. You've got 7 years to use it, and you don't have to use it all at once. You can split it up and spread the money around, or use it however you want. You do it within 7 years. However, you cannot transfer it to anybody else, so only you can use your education award. Now, the cash stipend is, as it sounds, it's a cash payment paid out by direct deposit at the very end of your service. So at this point, the most important detail to know is that if you're not sure which one of these benefits you want to choose, I suggest you pick the education award, because if you pick that, then you'll have until the end of your 10th month to switch to the cash award. However, once you start service, you are not able to switch from the cash stipend to the education award. So if you choose the cash stipend, and your start date comes, then that's kind of a final decision. But if you pick the education award, then you've got flexibility up till your 10th month. More specific details about the education award eligibility, institutions that match the education award, and other things to know can be found on the VISTA campus. And as well, there's some information on AmeriCorps.gov about the education award. Looking a little bit more about this topic, if you have student loans now, there are ways that you can postpone repayment of federally backed student loans during your year of service. So if you chose the education award, then you can request what's called National Service Forbearance for any federally backed student loans that you have. And if you do that, it means that you do not make monthly loan payments during your year of service. And at the end of your year, you can ask the National Service Trust to pay off any interest that accrued while you were serving. Just a little footnote, be aware that that interest payoff that we make is considered taxable income. So the following tax time you'd have to report that. Let's see a little bit more about forbearance. Federal loan forbearance is not guaranteed, and it's not automatic. You have to initiate the process by submitting a forbearance request in your account at my.americorps.gov. And you'll be able to do this about a week into your service. You can't do it right now because you're not an active VISTA member. But in about a week after you start, you'll use the My Education Award link, which is going to be a new link that appears in your account. Now, it's possible that you have loans where the payments and accrual of interest are already suspended due to the pandemic. And if that's the case, we would still recommend that you put your loans into forbearance, though, because that way you won't need to make payments until the end of your service next year. And at that point, again, you can ask the trust to pay off whatever interest might accrue after that current suspension is lifted. But remember, not all student loans are the same, so you may need to check with your specific lender for details on your loan repayment time frame. All right, so that's it if you chose the Education Award. If you select the end of service cash stipend, or if you have private student loans, then there's an option for you that's called loan deferment. With loan deferment, you apply directly with your lender and you provide the reason of economic hardship. Under deferment, you may be able to have your accrued interest paid off by the U.S. Department of Education if you have federally subsidized loans that you put into deferment. If you have a Perkins loan, you may be able to have a portion of that loan forgiven. So loan deferment is, again, it's not guaranteed, and it's something that may not be offered by all lenders. So you're going to need to check with your specific lender for the details. I'll say it again, neither one of these is going to happen automatically. You will need to request them through the appropriate process for deferment in My AmeriCorps or for forbearance through My AmeriCorps and for loan deferment through the bank that holds your loan. All right, so that was a lot. We know it was a lot. If you want even more details on everything we just covered or a little bit of a refresher, go back to the Education Award tutorial that's on the AmeriCorps website. You can see the link there. And also that link is in our helpful links document. If you want a quick recap or a reminder on the forbearance process, after you've officially started service, you can go to your account, my.americorps.gov, and submit your loan forbearance request with AmeriCorps. Again, it's not going to happen automatically. Once you submit your request, we recommend you go back in and check on its status to make sure it's progressing and it doesn't get returned or held up for some kind of a question. Then at the end of your service year, it's your responsibility to submit any Education Award payment requests, that is, if you want to spend it, as well as if you want us to pay off your interest, that you need to request that again in your My AmeriCorps account.
Let's move on now to talk about healthcare benefits. The AmeriCorps VISTA program offers two different health benefit options, one for members who have health coverage, such as private insurance or Medicaid now, and the other for members who don't have health coverage. So let's explain them. If you have health insurance or other coverage, you are eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Healthcare Allowance, which provides reimbursement up to $8,200 for qualifying out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. You can use the healthcare allowance towards out-of-pocket expenses like co-payments for office visits, services, or prescriptions, medications and medical supplies, meeting your annual deductible. The allowance will not reimburse you for the cost of buying health insurance or paying monthly premiums. On the other hand, if you do not have any health coverage now, you are eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Benefit Plan. which is basically a safety net plan that covers basic healthcare needs. It covers many basic services with very low copays, but it does have some limitations and it does not cover pre-existing conditions. There is no deductible for the health benefit plan. In looking at both of these options, they both include limited dental and vision benefits, and they also include a teledoc service for phone and video healthcare with board-certified and licensed doctors. And both benefit options are free, so nothing is deducted from your living allowance no matter which option you choose. Both options only cover you, the AmeriCorps member. To receive a benefit, you must enroll because there is no automatic enrollment. In about 2 weeks, you will get an email from the International Medical Group, IMG, which is the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Plan Administrator, and that email will contain instructions on how to enroll. Given the current situation and concerns around testing for COVID-19, the best source for information is the Center for Disease Control, CDC. Please make sure to follow their guidance on who should be tested and the measures for testing. And if testing for COVID-19 is recommended, testing is covered under both the health benefit plan and healthcare allowance. And if an AmeriCorps VISTA member is diagnosed with COVID-19, both the health benefit plan and the healthcare allowance will cover medically necessary care in accordance with the benefit plan. AmeriCorps VISTA members who want to seek coverage through the health insurance marketplace can take advantage of a special enrollment period of 60 days from the start and end dates of your AmeriCorps service. You would go to healthcare.gov to shop for plans and see what subsidies you qualify for. To enroll for these benefits during a special enrollment period, you will need to call the marketplace. So next, let's talk about public assistance benefits and how they may be impacted by your AmeriCorps VISTA service benefits. If you are already receiving public assistance, such as the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, abbreviated TANF, or LIHEAP, which is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, then your VISTA Living Allowance or any other payments you receive from the AmeriCorps VISTA program should not affect the level of assistance you receive. Likewise, in applying for new public assistance benefits, your living allowance should not be factored in when determining the level of benefits that you receive. There's one very, very important exception to this provision, and that is SNAP, formerly called food stamps. If you enroll in SNAP now or at any time during your year of service, your living allowance and other AmeriCorps VISTA payments will be counted as income in calculating your eligibility and benefit level. If you are already receiving SNAP prior to enrolling in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, your benefits should remain unchanged. Please note that public benefits are managed by state or local entities, and AmeriCorps is not involved in how they are administered, so you'll want to be sure to speak with a caseworker for specific advice in these areas. And depending on your location, it's possible that some of these offices have become extremely busy and overwhelmed, so if you do need advice, it may take a little bit longer for the state or local office to respond. In about 2 weeks, you'll be able to access, view, and print your service letters from your homepage in my.americorps.gov. When applying for public assistance, you'll be able to print a letter citing the authority for what's called income disregard from your account.
All right, as an AmeriCorps VISTA member, you have certain leave benefits that are available during your year of service. You have 10 days of personal leave and 10 days of sick leave that are available to you, but make sure to read the VISTA member handbook regarding the time periods when you are permitted to use your leave. Additionally, you'll be able to observe national holidays that are recognized by your service site. So for example, if your site observes Labor Day as a day off, then you would also have that day off. However, you do not get excused for leave for federal holidays that are not observed by your site. So for example, if your site does not give its staff a holiday for Veterans Day, then you are expected to serve on that day. You and your supervisor will monitor your time and attendance, and you will send any leave requests directly to your supervisor. There are other benefits that are available to AmeriCorps VISTA members, and as we previously mentioned, some benefits may not apply to you. These include benefits such as relocation and childcare. So quickly, if you have relocated more than 50 miles from your home of record to your service site, or if you will be relocating within the next 45 days, then you may qualify for relocation travel allowance and a one-time settling in allowance. If you're eligible for financial travel support, you should have already received communication from the VISTA Member Support Unit that would include a relocation form for you to fill out and return. If you relocated or plan to relocate more than 50 miles to your service site and you have not received an email from the VISTA Member Support Unit, or if you have any questions about that relocation process, you can ask your question to the VMSU at vmsu@cns.gov. In addition, AmeriCorps VISTA offers a child care benefit to members who qualify. So to qualify, you have to meet specific eligibility requirements, such as household income limits, and you must be the parent or legal guardian of a child under the age of 13 who lives with you. For more information and to apply for this benefit, please visit AmeriCorpsChildcare.com. All right, so I know we just covered a lot of information, and as you have heard, as an AmeriCorps member, you have access to a lot of benefits during your year, and we hope that now you have a better idea of how to find out more about those benefits, where you can go to get additional information, and also what steps you need to take to access those benefits. I know many of you have questions, so we'll take a few minutes now to address some of the questions that you've submitted in the Q&A. We'll pull out ones that we think will apply to most everyone, and we'll answer those verbally. Meanwhile, our colleagues are going to continue to address individual questions, sending your response in the Q&A directly to you so you can go in there and see it. All right, so let us, just looking through, there's a lot of questions in here.
I'll start with one that I think is applicable to a lot of people, and it's a very easy one, and that was, do we need to complete the teleservice request form if we are serving both on-site and from home, such as partial work completed online? The answer is yes, especially during this time of COVID-19. If you think there's any time you'll be teleserving, if it's 1 day a week or 5 days a week, you would need to complete the teleservice request form just so we have it on file. We know where you are. It's an easy form, as I'm sure you saw, but yes, you need to complete the teleservice request form regardless of how frequently you think you'll be teleserving.
Great, and I saw a related question to that, but it applies to some other things as well. The question was, is it acceptable for us to put an electronic signature on that teleservice form? The answer is yes. The same for your outside employment request form. Obviously, because you are telesurfing and you're not there on site, an electronic signature for those is fine.
There were a couple of questions that came in around completion of onboarding forms and coursework and not being sure because there was nothing that indicated it was complete. So really quickly, remember the best source of understanding if you completed it is you can download the AmeriCorps VISTA Member Orientation Checklist. It's a PDF document you can print or you can leave on your computer, but as you complete each item, you can check them off. Our system doesn't currently give you an indication that everything is complete, except with your onboarding forms in my.americorps.gov and with your terms and conditions of service that you certify in my.americorps.gov. Those you can actually see in your account when you click on the My Living Allowance link and you click on the End of Service Benefit link. You'll be able to see that they're actually completed. But the easiest thing is to download the checklist and just check it off. Our VISTA member support unit team will reach out to you if you're missing anything. So if you don't hear anything from them in the next couple of days, you should be good to go in terms of coursework. But if there is anything missing or if something's filled out incorrectly, you will get an email directly from them.
Great. Let's see. A lot of questions in here about first pay date. Some people say, wait, that's 3 weeks after I start, not 2 weeks. So just a quick summary. This does work in pay periods that are 2 weeks long, starts on a Sunday and ends the following Saturday, like the following week, so 14 days. And then after that 14-day period, you don't get paid on that Saturday. You'll get paid on the following Friday, right? Because there's a whole process of you filling out your timesheet, your supervisor approving it. They have to go into our system and verify that you served, and we have to run payroll and send the information to the bank. So that all happens the week following the pay period that you served. So you'll serve 2 weeks, and then on the Friday a week later, you'll get paid. So November 27th is the first pay date for most everybody on this call. Now, a couple of you have said, hey, I was told I get paid on a different date. What gives? So check with your supervisor, because as Eric mentioned, some of our sponsors will pay you directly, right? So rather than using our payroll system, they'll use their own payroll system. And you would have no way of knowing that. So ask your supervisor and they'll let you know. And we ask all of our sponsors to follow our calendar of pay, but some of them, because of limitations in their own payroll system, can't follow it precisely. So it might be shifted by a week or something. So that could be the case. Check with your supervisor about that. And as a reminder, federal income tax will be withheld from your living allowance payments. State income tax will not.
Seems like a lot of people select the Education Award because there's a lot of questions about how the Education Award can be used and where. The short answer is it can be used at any Title IV institution. That's number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Title IV institution is an institution that accepts federal funds. So it is a lot of loan lenders. It is a lot of educational institutions. But check to make sure if you're looking for a graduate school or trying to pay off federal student loans, find out if they're a Title IV institution. And all of that loan forbearance that was asked about earlier in the questions would be submitted through your my.americorps.gov account in about a week after you start service. That's when you should have access to be able to do that.
Let's see, there was a couple of questions about relocation and the impact of like quarantining or working from home and then relocating later because of the pandemic. So let me just try to handle those. So if your site is currently not open, or if you have approval from your supervisor to begin serving by full-time teleservice, you do need to fill out the teleservice form. Fill that out, send it to your supervisor, so we'll have it. And as Eric said, even if you're doing a mix of teleservice and in-person service at site, we still need the form. And if you are planning to relocate, but you're not going to move until it's safe for you to do that, then the impact on your relocation is we won't process your relocation assistance until you're about ready to move. So we put a 45-day time frame around that. So hopefully you would know about a month and a half before you're going to relocate that you're going to do it. And at that time, right, the 45 days before you move, you would fill out that relocation form, send it to the VMSU, and let them know so they can get everything together to process your benefit. So that was the question about 45 days. If you think you're going to relocate, but it won't be for, maybe 90 days from now, doesn't mean you won't get the benefit. It just means we're not going to do it now. We're going to wait till it gets closer to your time and until you know specifically that you are going to relocate. So hopefully that helps clear that up.
And speaking of money, I'll answer this quick question that I think applies to pretty much everyone, and that was around the living allowance. Do we still receive the living allowance every week or every 2 weeks, actually, or does personal sick holidays affect the living allowance? So remember, as a VISTA, you're paid every 2 weeks with the living allowance, and as part of your service, you're allowed 10 sick days and 10 personal days. So all that's included. So if you use your 10 sick days and 10 personal days, which we recommend you take advantage of your benefits, your living allowance is not impacted because those 10 personal and 10 sick days are part of the whole package. So yes, you would still, even if you do use your leave, you still do receive your bi-weekly living allowance every 2 weeks.
Great. So a few other questions here around the education award, and we won't be able to go into too many details on them. But basically, the interest accrual payment that we mentioned is in addition to your education award. So if you put your loan, you pick the education award, put your loan into forbearance with us at the end of your service, you ask us to pay off the interest. That interest is in addition to the amount you earn for the education award. And a number of folks have asked in slightly different ways, you know, is the living allowance considered income? And for most purposes, it is. Even though you're not an employee, you're still receiving this living allowance, and this money is considered income. It's taxable. It gets factored in if you were to apply for, say, SNAP benefits. But if you are applying for other types of public benefits, as Eric mentioned, you can use that income disregard letter so that your income, your VISTA living allowance income, is not considered when determining benefits for those other programs. All right. Eric, do you see any other here that may be of value for everyone to hear?
I'm scrolling through. We answered a lot of them, and I know Gina and Chris are doing a great job answering some of the very specific ones. I don't see anything that looks critical to mention at this. Oh, one final one. I see there was a string of questions I missed about taxes, and just a reminder that your living allowance, federal taxes are deducted from your living allowance, and with the end of service benefits, either the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award or the cash stipend, those are also taxed. We wish we could get rid of that, but that's a much bigger issue that we would like to accomplish. So keep in mind those are taxed, and so when you file your taxes, you will have to indicate that, but that should answer those questions. And Andy, I think that's all that I saw.
Okay, great. All right, good questions. If you have some that we didn't answer verbally, we have colleagues who are there fast and furious responding in the Q&A, so make sure to check back there for a written answer to your question.
Great. So thank you again. A lot of those questions that came in were wonderful, and we appreciate taking the time to ask you thorough questions and for our staff to try to answer them and set you up for success. And we will, on next Monday's webinar, have additional time for questions and answers, so hopefully we can address more specific questions at that time. But right now, as you see in our agenda, we're going to turn our attention to online resources that you have, some important reminders for this week, and a few closing remarks. So as you probably remember, these are the two websites that have figured prominently today and in many emails you've received from AmeriCorps. Don't forget, you can bookmark these sites so you can easily and quickly access them. And as a refresher, my.americorps.gov is the My AmeriCorps portal, or you may hear it just called the portal. And this is the website where you applied for your AmeriCorps position, where you complete your direct deposit and other onboarding forms, and where you can access your VISTA assignment description. It's also where, in a few weeks, you'll be able to access your living allowance statements, request some of the benefits that we just discussed, and print a service letter that verifies your AmeriCorps service. The campus is at vistacampus.gov, and this is the website where you complete your onboarding coursework and tutorials. And we strongly urge and encourage you to explore the VISTA campus early and often. It's an important resource to help you navigate your year of service, access additional training opportunities, connect with other VISTA members, and more. And here's a quick look at the Learning Resources section to give you a sense of the breadth of information available to you. And as I talked about networking, you can also locate and reach out to other AmeriCorps VISTA members using the VISTA map and the VISTA forums on the campus.
All right, love that VISTA campus. Thank you, Eric. So we have just a couple more things to cover before we let you go today. Here's one final reminder about your pre-service coursework, the onboarding forms, and that criminal history check that are coming due. Be sure to use the VISTA member orientation checklist, if you like, to help you keep track as you work your way through the list of things to get done. And finally, we'd love your feedback on our presentation. What worked well? What can we do to improve the presentation for future AmeriCorps members? So if you would, please take a few moments to complete a brief survey. I think it takes 3.5 minutes on average to do. We will use your input right away as we complete our preparations for next week's webinar. And thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. You can see the link is there in the chat. And with that, I want to revisit our objectives for the session. Today, I hope that we have started to build some new connections and put faces to names, and that we've helped to clarify some of the complexity of starting your AmeriCorps service. We know this is a busy time for you, and so much information is available, so I hope this discussion helped to clarify some of our requirements and also helped you to know where you can find information quickly. So thank you again for joining us on this webinar. From all of us here at AmeriCorps, thank you for joining the AmeriCorps team. We look forward to seeing you again on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for our second and final orientation webinar. Have a great rest of your week.